Thank you. Thank you for coming back. People either love me or hate me, so I don't know. So we kind of laid the premise, right? This is where we work. This is what we have going. How many of you work day in and day out with our clients, kind of, in one capacity or another, where you're bumping in with folks, and yeah. What do the rest of you do? Never? Some? Some? Okay. Or you get called in when it gets bad, and you got to kind of be the master diffuser, and right? Challenging skill set. The bear, the scale. Here's the burnout scale, and I think I'm not going to ask you to tell me, but there's helpful stuff in here, right? You become cynical or critical at work. Do you drag yourself to work? Mondays suck for me. They just do. I really grieve the switching back in, and it takes me a day to kind of get up to speed and ready to go. I love what I do. I find it a privilege, but Mondays suck, and everybody knows it. So, just don't go near Floerke on Monday, and we'll all be fine. Are you irritable, impatient with coworkers, customers, or clients? I mean, how many of you have known judges who don't raise your hand if 20 years in and they're not fit to be around? We had a judge next door to me, and he was in the courtroom next door to me, on the edge of retirement, total pain in the ass. And I would regularly get people who would come in, attorneys, who would just ask if they could sit in my courtroom for a while because they needed some space after having gotten beat up next door, literally. There was an expression with his last name in it. Oh, I just got blanked. Cranky. Now you see him retired, it's smile, smile, smile. So seriously, I haven't seen the man without a smile. I'm like, do you lack energy to be productive? Do you lack satisfaction from your achievements? Does it take a lot of work to even think about what your achievements are? Do you feel disillusioned? I had another judge in a bench meeting say he was 3 or 4 years from retirement, and he said, I don't think anything we do works. Like, really? And what they were doing was the same damn thing they'd been doing 30 years before. Any new idea was immediately they'd get out the pitchforks and kill it. No, that's not how we do it. But he had gotten to a point where he honestly thought nothing we do matters. Nothing works. Are you using food, drugs, or alcohol to feel better? Sleep habits, appetite changed, headaches, backaches, stomach, physical. Anybody have, does that ring a bell for anybody? It probably, right? Something on that list might be hitting you, right? Why did you choose to do this work? Help me. Why did you choose to do the work? Is this on, Wendy? Somebody, yes, please. Why did you choose to do it?
Because my chief asked me to, and because I needed the money.
You mean management, the managerial stuff? Yeah. Why'd you get into court admin in the first place?
I was managing drug court, which I'm very passionate about.
Yeah. So that's a neat entry, right?
And before that,
public health. Yeah. Who else? Why'd you get into this work? Yeah.
I fell into the court job, just it was a job and it paid well and benefits. I chose to be a supervisor or in management because I do really want to change the behavior and just the way we manage at the court.
You want to change the system?
I want to change how we manage our jobs and our people. So.
Yeah, good for you. How's it going?
Slow.
It's slow, right?
Very slow.
Right. Sometimes we wait for retirements. Right? We all know it. I'll just say it. Who else? Why did you sign up to do it? Yes, please.
Because I came into this office and did some outside work, and when I met the people, I found a lot of caring, passionate people that really wanted to help other people.
Yeah, we have good people. Yeah, yeah. We complain about the grumpy ones, but yeah, good people. Anybody else? Yeah.
Okay. Finance, and for me, the reason
Keep it
why
closer.
sorry.
Rockstar.
Alrighty.
There you go. Yeah.
But the reason why I choose what I like is because I think about the citizens and the taxpayer. Every time I make a decision, I think about the taxpayer.
Right.
But I love being an accountant.
Yeah, you like keeping the lines straight, right? That's cool. Do you ever? I'll often sit in my courtroom and see the folks coming in, and I'll either picture them as my son or my daughter, one of my sons or one of my daughters. It's gotten easier since my kids are older and finding one-hitters around and stuff like that, but just to be able to personalize who's there, right? So you don't lose track, this us versus them kind of stuff, right? One-hitters was a year or two ago. We're good now. I'm like, buddy, that's going to be a big-ass headline. I mean, whew, you and me both. So what stresses you out? Judges. Okay, say it. You knew.
I said judges.
Yeah, tell me more. Tell us why.
Are there any in the room besides you?
I don't know. I can't tell.
Because once they become a judge, they turn into prima donnas.
Yeah,
Before judges, they're normal.
yeah,
I shouldn't say not all, some.
yeah. That's totally true. Control freaks, right? Yeah. What's that? The God syndrome. Huh. I used to represent the sheriff's office, and one of my buddies there, back before I became a judge, he said, that's it. He said, we got a pool going to see when you're going to get black robe disease. I said, put me down for day one. What the hell? I can win that pool going away. I talked to a friend. She's going on the bench in a little bit. She says, put me down for -2. But you're totally right, And when you run for election, everybody wants to talk about Judge Judy and how awesome she is because she rips the living shit out of people for sport, right? And then yet you watch people in the courtroom who are doing some of that. I've watched judges just ream people who are in chains, and I think, maybe you ought to take the chains off and then go toe-to-toe and say some of that stuff. Because that's a power over thing. That's not a respect dignity. So what do you do about judges when we're the problem for you? How does that even work, right? You wait for retirements. I know that piece. That's really hard. Yeah, it's a power system.
You have to try and educate the judges, and I guess you find the ones that are going to listen and maybe get them to understand what it is to manage in a system where you're never really in charge.
Yeah.
You're always working with somebody who's in charge. So.
Yeah. Well, and very few of us have any managerial experience in any capacity when we take the bench, right? Right? I mean, you start listening to a group of judges talk about if you've practiced in employment law or done grievance and arbitration or employment litigation, you hear what they say about how it ought to go in our... It's just shocking. I mean, we could spend all day here, couldn't we? Sorry. Yeah, let me come to you. You're going to switch off judges for a bit? Or are you going to keep going?
Stay on judges,
all right,
but-
that's fine. I'm good. I'm totally good.
2 thoughts on judges. I've been in the same community my whole life and in the court system like 24 years. So when my friends that are lawyers become judges, I always say to them, if you get black road syndrome, I'm going to kick your butt.
Yeah,
And I'm going to tell you that I see this in you, that you've changed.
yeah.
And I
Have
do.
you done that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good
But,
for you. Yeah, does it
but-
make a difference?
But I'll tell you, it just depends on the level of friendship.
Yeah,
But when you're in court administration, and unless a judge becomes chief judge, they'll say, I have no idea what all y'all do and what it takes to run all these courthouses.
yeah.
But
They
once
think
they're chief judge,
they
they're
think
like,
there are
oh.
too many of you.
And we do nothing.
What do you do? Yeah, what do they do? Yeah.
So everybody should take a trip around chief judge.
I've often thought we ought to do job swap day. where I go out and run the window and stuff like that. I don't have the competence to, yeah.
It's good to say, you know, when you have independent judges, a lot of times competition works really well. You know,
Oh,
you spread
yeah.
the word, so-and-so is doing something,
Yeah.
and, you know, this is great, and this person's fabulous. Or
Right.
We're going to give this person an award because they did all this.
Right,
You know, so
right.
sometimes things like that help.
Right, so you get everybody kind of riled up and wanting to compete and do better, yeah. Sally and I do all that all the time. What else causes you stress? Go ahead, shout at me.
Well, I'm not given the resources from above to get the work done, and I think everyone, my staff would have that, would answer almost all of those burnout questions. So we have a large volume of work and not enough resources to get the work done.
Yeah, yeah. How many of you feel that? Right, volume, and resource issues and resource issues. And it doesn't, at least where we are, it doesn't look like the resource issue is getting miraculously better, right? We're fighting for every nickel we can get with the legislature. And then some of y'all are from states where there's a huge battle going on funding the courts and ideologically and all that. Yeah, yeah. And that's really hard to beat. Hard to beat back or change, right? Yeah.
Legislative changes that aren't with no input from the courts that it affects.
Legislation that's just coming at you and saying, do this, don't do that. Yeah, they have no idea. Yeah. Yeah, you'll meet legislators who don't understand separation of powers. You meet judges all the time who don't understand separation of powers. Yeah. Yeah. What else? Stress. Yeah.
The misconception.
Here, let me.
The misconception that people can have about court. Coming from, the city for what the purpose of the court is, and then from people who are coming to court, them taking it seriously, or, the ones that, just are not informed and don't care to be informed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a challenge.
You feel like, it seems like we are called on to be more and more kind of social arbiters and determiners, and people are looking to courts as an institution that can solve stuff that we just can't solve, right? Yeah, yeah, really frustrating. Did you?
Human resource issues, employee issues.
Okay. Dealing with friction and training and all the turnover.
Turnover.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because if you're overworked and underpaid, then you go work for Coca-Cola, someone else making more money. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, and then you're always training people. Yeah. I'm going to give you this because I can't hear you. Okay, independent clerk's office.
We have an independent clerk's office, so sometimes there's friction in trying to negotiate the two offices and who does what, and so there's friction sometimes in that department.
Yeah, yeah, independence is a two-edged sword, right? What does your stress do to you? Makes you sick. Tell me more.
Migraines.
Migraines.
Non-stop.
Yeah, yeah, migraines, yeah. Insomnia. Can't sleep. Frustration. Yeah. Less productive. In what way? Tell me.
When you're stressed and upset, you can't produce at your optimum.
Right, right. So you're grinding along, which makes you behind, which makes you more upset, which makes you behind. Yeah.
We have an ongoing problem we see. I don't know if it's stress related, probably it's all impacts it. Everybody's having neck issues. We're all on the computers all day
Yeah.
long. We're hunched over. We're all getting the very desk that we can stand up. But I think everybody in my office has neck issues. We're
Yeah.
all so old, but
Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of the, it'll, we,
is that burnout related? Is that just, it all feeds in together?
it all feeds in together. We had a court reporter who's now retired. She said it will always show up in one way, physically it will always show up, you name it. There's a way that it kind of works out, right, for some of us or many of us. How many struggle with sleep? Have experienced that, right? Yeah. Anybody found some solutions on the sleep side? No? What's that? Beverage? She's from Minnesota. I don't know if I want to give it to you, but
No, I mean, that does help.
yeah, helps you go to sleep.
Yeah, helps you go to sleep. But just trying to maybe de-stress a little bit or clear your mind. I know earlier we talked about like gardening or something
Yeah.
outside to relax closer to the time that you're maybe going to be going to bed.
Yeah. Turn the damn TV off. Anybody else have success with the insomnia? My wife has it terrible. We talk about that's kind of a byproduct of motherhood in some ways too for a lot of our friends. It's like, geez, 3 o'clock, she's awake, you know. Makes life really tough. What is the 3 a.m.? Exactly. What is that? Nothing was supposed to be happening at 3 a.m. It's not like your 3-year-old needs to get up and play at 3 a.m. You know, I mean, yeah? Is it menopause? Okay. I'm gonna keep moving. What's the next slide? There you go, perfect. I wanted to mention this one just to mention, and I'll juxtapose this slide with some of the slides on exercise, because you got to understand that cortisol really does trigger stuff in your body, affecting your energy level, your sleep, your appetite. The stress going up and up and up can have an honest to goodness negative impact that's measurable on your body, right? Ulcers, infections, absenteeism, increased blood pressure, arterial plaque, heart attack, stroke. It really, that cortisol, that flowing in your body can really make a difference. Metabolism, diabetes, decreased serotonin. That's why you're screwed up on sleep, mood, anxiety. It can be depression. Serotonin's going away. Anybody know dopamine? Heard dopamine? Dopamine is our best friend. Dopamine is birthdays, Halloween, my favorite holiday, Christmas. That's, you know, your system is flooding with dopamine. When you're flooded with cortisol, you're losing pleasure. You're losing motivation. You're losing concentration. You run the risk, you know, my folks with opioid use disorders or amphetamine disorders, they're replacing dopamine, right? Alcohol can do it too, right? Let's talk a little bit about planning. I want to take you through just a little bit more on the idea of how to try and break this down. SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, right? It's this idea that you're going to have to work at it. You're going to have to be pretty specific. Has anybody tried to make a change in the last 6 months or a year and want to share about what you did and what you experienced? These are all on the app too, I think. I hope. Picked up a new habit, changed an old habit, something? Yeah. What'd you do and what'd you find?
Well, I actually had started listening to motivational talks in the morning to get started, because the person actually dealt with a lot of change. So it helped me to be able to adapt that at work. And I found even later on, just unconsciously, from listening to it in the morning, it was only maybe for about 15 minutes, sometimes 7, as little as 7, but I found myself like naturally implementing some things, and it changed the way that I thought about what I was doing, what I was bringing to work, and it actually caused me to be more engaged and conscientious about decisions that I made, because I had reached a point where I didn't feel I had as many choices. But then I began to get the information, and I realized, okay, well, I may not have a huge choice about how something is done or or the aspect of the outcome, but I do have a choices in how I execute it. I have
Right.
choices in how I utilize my time. So
Right.
it's been real helpful for
Right,
me.
right. Good for you. How did you build it into your day?
I just would listen on the way to work.
Okay, so you get in and,
Right. So I just turn it on mostly on my way to work instead of just listening to what music or, the radio. I just plug it in, and then after I'm through listening, then I just go on with the rest of my day.
yeah. So that's beautiful, right? That's real simple to just kind of slip into your plan. It's just choosing a different thing to listen to on something you do every day, right? Really simple. And you know if you're doing it, you know if you don't. It's measurable, it's achievable. You didn't set out to do 20 hours a week of it. You set out to do a little bit each morning, right? Anybody else have an example of something they've tried or done? Doesn't have to succeed it. We can learn from failing too.
There are several things I've done. I learned how to play the guitar, and that
Wow.
gives me pleasure. And I've always worked out, but I kind of kicked it up a notch, and I'm like weight training,
Yeah.
and that gives me energy and mind clarity. And I listen to the daily that's kind of meditation.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
son is a big meditator, and that, and in your headspace type of thing.
Headspace, the app, yeah.
Yes, those are all motivators for me. They've helped me, just feel better about myself. So
Yeah.
when I go to work, I just, that energy just flows, through me to, to my staff and everybody that I deal with.
How did you start about learning guitar? What was the
I
first
always
steps?
wanted to. Just basics. I always
Yeah.
I always wanted to learn, and I decided.
When did you do it?
Oh,
Morning,
like-
night, lunch?
Oh, after work, like twice a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, after work.
And how did you remember to do it? How did you build it in? What did you do?
It was. What did I do?
Was it easy, or did you have to kind of?
No, it wasn't easy. I mean, it's something I was doing twice a week, so
Yeah.
it's basics for me. It's just learning the strings
Yeah.
and kind of build that.
Good for you.
So yeah, really
Good for
good.
you. Anybody else do music?
Thank you.
Let me come to you. Music's so cool. No, go ahead. Give me your other example. I saw you.
I struggled with the sleep thing for a while, and just the last few weeks, I'm a big coffee person too, and I stopped at
Rock star that.
3 p.m., and it's made a huge difference.
Right.
And
Did you
then-
hear that? She stopped drinking coffee at 2 or 3 p.m.
Yeah, no caffeine after that, and it's made a tremendous
Right.
difference.
Because the half-life of caffeine
Yeah, it's
is
long.
7 hours.
Yes.
Right? You want to, go to bed a little earlier, but cut the coffee off at
It makes the afternoons a little rough, but
right,
they're getting better.
Right. I always tell them, don't bring the meth into evidence if I don't have coffee. Yeah, but that's where you learn. That's a huge thing. If you drink, and some people can drink coffee till 10 at night and go down. That ain't me. So cut the coffee. So you built it in, you planned it. Yeah, did you? Yeah.
I play music.
Yeah, here. How did you start, and how does it work for your schedule and stuff?
Well, I started in middle school, in high school. It was actually
Good
my
for you.
passion. I wanted to be a professional musician, but my dad said, get a real job. So
Ah.
I went law. And then I came to the courthouse in
That's a
1986.
big jump from music to law. Oh, my word.
And I started, it was a paralegal position, and I started in the court system when I was 24, 25.
Yeah.
And I'd given up music to raise my children, and then when they graduated, I'm like, I need something more.
Yeah.
So I started playing music again, and I found that I call it my therapy, and all my employees
Yeah.
know that Devin's going to do therapy.
Cool.
And I'm a better person because I do that, and it's just a good focus. And I've joined community bands and
Good
to
for
make
you.
sure that I stay involved.
Good for you. So she's hit on like 4 or 5 of my points, right? Starting something up, keeping at it. It involves community. It involves connection. Music. How many are doing music? I won't call on you. But yeah, I mean, music is awesome, right? If you could do that, that's just, yeah. Wendy, did you? Yeah.
I started setting boundaries for myself.
Oh, yeah. Tell them.
Well, I have a
We've been
tendency.
talking. We're kindred spirits. We got a song to send you.
I have a
Simple.
tendency to not say no to anybody.
Right.
And I have 6 grandchildren under the age of 8 that all live within 1,000 feet of me.
Oh.
Yeah. And yeah, they can see my car. One of them can see my car where I park it. And you can't just say I'm not at home, because he says, but Nene, I can see your car. So I've started setting boundaries where, and when they live 1,000 feet from you, obviously they can come to your house anytime they want. They can start. So I've just started setting boundaries where I just tell them, I'm going to do something for myself tonight. And nobody can come over. I was working up to 15 hours a day at the court, because I also serve on a board. I also teach court administration, and I also served on a judicial advisory board this year. So between the grandkids and everything with this, I didn't have any time to myself. So I've stopped working 15 hours a day. I have stopped making myself available to the grandkids all the time. And so I actually have set aside a night a week, and it's not a lot, but a night a week that for myself, that I do for myself only, and I do not answer to anybody else. And for me, it's a night a week, but it's a night a week to myself, where I don't answer anybody's texts, I don't answer anybody's phone calls. It's my night.
That is hardcore, right? How many of y'all could do that? That is awesome, right? The power of no. How many of you are good at saying no? Couple, right? You know how you get better at saying no is you start saying no. It's a muscle, right? It's a muscle. You got to do it. Yeah.
Well, I have a similar passion of you in biking, so I decided earlier this spring I would bring it to the office, and I scheduled a couple days a week.
Yeah.
And scheduled my lunch break, which then
so you could go for a ride.
Go for a ride.
Yeah.
And just block that out. And once you start doing it on a regular basis, then they started understanding that that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Now I will not ride in the snow, but
come on up. Try
we don't get any snow in Missouri anymore.
Come on up to the roof.
But I did, and that was preparation for a major ride I did, but also...
That's good too, right? Do you hear that? Preparation for a major thing. If you can build something big in, then you got a little goal going, right?
Yep.
Good for you. Was it hard to kind of, did those first few days, was it, I don't have time? Did you waffle some?
Well, that was the thing, is normally I would always go riding on the weekend. So I'd go out
Yeah.
early Saturday and Sunday morning,
Yeah.
but I didn't get anything done during the week because if I tried to do it in the evening, it never happened.
Right.
So
Right.
I just literally threw the bike in the SUV one day, took it to my office, put it in my closet, and said, tomorrow I'll do that, and set a couple days a week.
Did you write it on your calendar?
Yeah, blocked it out.
Hardcore, it's just right
Just
there.
blocked out.
Bite,
I will
boom.
be.
Yeah.
I mean,
You don't write it on your calendar, it ain't gonna happen, right? Right? Yeah. Somebody in the back, yeah.
I don't ride a bike, but part of what y'all can do and what I do, I like to surf. And I schedule on Wednesdays. I work a half day so I can surf. I can't surf with my phone. So I don't check
Right.
my emails, I don't text.
Oh.
You know, I mean, that's disconnecting is huge.
That's awesome. I read about a judge in Hawaii who surfs on his lunch hour. I'm like, I could do this forever if I had that, right? Awesome. I'm here, guys. Anybody from the back rows? Okay. Think about this. Here's a guy, BJ Fogg. I mentioned him briefly. Anybody seen his stuff, TED Talks? He's awesome. Zuckerberg took his class. He is awesome. He teaches people how to manipulate you. He's awesome. But he talks about, it's really simple. Behavior equals motivation, ability, and a trigger. And his whole magic is in trigger. When we start something, you know, you want to get in shape, you want to learn the guitar, you want to run a marathon, whatever, you've got pretty high motivation, right? It's like my folks, you get arrested for felony DWI, you're looking at 48 months in prison or higher, you got real high motivation to be abstinent right there and then, right? Motivation's pretty high. And if that's all you had, is that going to do it down the line? It just ain't. That motivation is going to fade. I will eat ice cream on Friday because I'm tired and I've talked to people all day long in drug court, right? So we got to have some motivation, we got to understand motivation is going to be high and low. It's going to come and go. Then we got to think about, is this easy to do or hard to do, right? If my exercise plan is I got to get in shape so I can climb Mount Everest next February, that's going to be hard to do. That's going to be really hard to do. So it's going to take massive motivation. I'm going to have to clear everything off. I'm going to have to be a crappy parent, right? Whereas if I decided my motivation is I'm going to climb the stairs, that's it. Or my thing, I'm going to climb the stairs, that's easier to do, right? It's way easier than climbing Everest. So everything is about this balancing between how much motivation you need to carry out the thing you got to do. Low motivation can get easy to do done, right? Climbing the steps don't have to go buy workout clothes, right? You with me? But what it is, the magic is a trigger. I talked about 2 of them, or maybe a few more in the getting a dog. That's a trigger to walk. I don't have to decide whether to walk or not. Riding the bike every day, for me, is a trigger. There's lots of different ways you can build trigger. I put on my phone, go to bed. I do. Every day at 8:45 in the evening it says go to bed. When I get home on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I got a reminder that says work out. Because I learned that if I go home and I eat and hang around and then I think I'm going to go down in the basement and lift weights, ain't happening. But if I've got a reminder and if I do it early in the day, the research says it takes less energy even to make that decision. You're kind of preloading those decisions by putting a trigger somewhere into you see an elevator, there's the stairs. Folks have examples of triggers they've used? Or like the idea, yep. Say it again. That's beautiful.
Like I put my running gear on before I leave the office, so I'll definitely go for a run.
Right.
When I get home.
Right. So you're preloading it. I have a niece who would do that. She'd go to bed in her workout clothes. So that when she got up in the morning, she was ready to go work out. I'm like, that is brilliant. It's just a trigger, right? I met a woman a couple of weeks ago. She parks 6 blocks from her office. So she walks herself, 10 times a week. Boom, 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 boom. And it's just, there's my parking spot, right? I applied for a job. They said, how much you got to make? I said, I don't know, but I got to be within 6 miles of your office, so you tell me what I got to make, because I'm riding my bike. I ain't going to work for nobody where I can't ride my bike, right? It's got to be built in. Who else? Triggers, ideas, things that help you stay on top of what you want to do. Yeah.
I have a partner that makes me accountable.
Oh, tell me.
So I've been trying to get up every morning to go walking.
Yeah.
It's very easy just to hit the snooze.
Right.
So my neighbor lady, she shows up at my door every day at 5:45. And if I'm not out of bed, she's knocking on my door.
Awesome, right? Yeah. And that's in my list. Get somebody to do it with. Get somebody to do it with. Enter a challenge. $100 on it. I'm going to do this. Or, whatever, right? With people engaged, yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Other folks? That's a trigger you never have to think about. And then you're relying on somebody else. You owe them that. You've got some allegiance going. You're going to get up. You're going to go. Whether they feel like it, whether it's raining, whether it's snowing. Yeah. Does this make sense? Triggers. Think about triggers. I use my phone a lot to trigger me to do stuff. I got an app I'm going to show you in a bit that's a trigger too. No. Learn no. Bunch of you are yes, learn no. Sleep, we talked about. It helps your immune system release proteins that deal with stress, that fight infection, decrease inflammation. It's an antidote to the stress you got on board. It's an honest-to-goodness antidote. It's designed to help you heal from the bumps and the grind and the stress and the, right? It's medicine. I track my sleep every night for 780 days or something. Here's a thing back to your alcohol. That's alcohol. Actually, they're both, well, yeah, okay. Actually, they're both alcohol, but that's my problem. This is alcohol within an hour of bed. And this is good sleep, up and down, REM, cycles. I learned that alcohol within an hour, hour and a half of sleep, I slept the same amount of time, but my sleep quality drops a ton. 53% here. I wasn't in bed very long that night. 85% that night. So I learned something about me from keeping track of my sleep. Drives my wife crazy. But unless you pay attention to it, sir. Can
you explain that? What do you mean
by the difference? It's supposed to be, we do REM sleep in about 90-minute REMs. So you do up and down, up and down, up and down. So this thing is measuring the quality of sleep and also the time that you've slept.
How did you get that?
I have it on a phone. It's on my phone and it listens to me sleep. That's what freaks her out. Yeah. It's called Sleep Cycle. If that, I think it costs $1. So it's proof that I snore. Would you quit reading this stuff? I was in Wisconsin and somebody said, well, that's a Tuesday. I'm like, you mean you don't drink on Tuesdays in Wisconsin? I'm from Wisconsin. What the hell? No judging. No judging. I find that helpful to drive other people crazy, but what it does, it tunes me to me. I'm really good at ignoring me. I'm really good at doing stupid stuff to my body and my mind and everything else. These things help me pay attention to me. That's, to me, fundamental mindfulness, right? I wanted to touch on, and I know this is more exercise than most anybody wants. I get it. I'm not trying to get you to be a mountain climber, but it really does fight back against the cortisol. Moving really is a good thing for your body, your mind, your spirit, your life. There's lots of stuff out there on how to start. Somebody mentioned weightlifting. Look at these two studies. Weightlifting is associated with reducing depressive symptoms and significantly reduced anxiety symptoms. Do you go through a day dealing with people and you don't hear about anxiety and depression anymore? 2 studies within a few months old. There's something going on with being able to do a little bit of resistance kind of stuff, right? Not talking about becoming a power lifter, becoming Schwartz, just keeping some muscle, right? I'll recommend an app for you. It's Johnson & Johnson's. It's called J&J on the App Store. 7-minute workout. It's 7 minutes. You don't need any equipment. You don't need shoes. You don't need nothing. It's just a body-based workout. It'll give you some push-ups. It'll give you a wall sit. It'll do a few things. You can set your motivation level. You can set your... It's a real low start, right? And then you can, if you want, you can crank it up to 21 minutes. I do 42 minutes of weight training a week, and that's it. And I don't want to give another minute to it. I really don't. And I want to be as efficient as I can. I do it in my basement. I do it in my hotel room. I do it out on the porch at home, not here. It's real low, real easy. You don't got to go to a gym, but pay attention to some level of resistance training. I think that's why gardening is strong for people. You're hoeing, you're picking up, you're hauling stuff. That's resistance. Don't have to be a muscle head. Don't have to be a, barbell junkie. Think about it. Does anybody else, do you guys, you mentioned weight training. Anybody doing weight training or seen it in their lives? What do you see?
All those things that you just talked about.
What do you do?
I
I've increased energy. You feel better. I mean, it's hard to make yourself do it, but once, just like you said, once you start doing it every day, you get used to it and you look forward to it.
Part of the deal.
As hard as it is, you look forward to it every day, and it
Yeah.
makes you feel better.
Yeah. There's a book out there called Younger Next Year. It's a book about retiring, written by this wild lawyer and a doctor. One of the things they talk about is the impacts of some level of weight training. It's a really entertaining book, too. Anybody else want to talk about weight training? Think about it. This is real easy in. I track my heart rate, big surprise. I want to know what my body's doing because I'm not real good at paying attention to it. Spent 53 years ignoring what my body's telling me. Nature, we talked about this. Anybody want to share what nature means to them or what they look for in nature? What you do in nature? Hey.
I like it. I walk like in the park because it's a park not too far from my house. But I like to walk there because there's a certain stillness and silence.
Mm-hmm.
And it like gives me opportunity to kind of clear my head and really, like listen and observe. And even by the time I get through with my walk, I usually feel better. Even if the situation hasn't changed, I feel better and I feel like I have a sense of peace and calm.
Kind of resets you, right? Reset. Who else? What do you like in nature? Come in.
So just over the last month, I've actually been working on the mindfulness and breathing and calming down. And we're always out in nature doing stuff, camping, everything. But whenever we're out, I'll look for a creek or a stream or a little waterfall or the trees, the lake, and I'll stand there and watch it and remember it and how I feel. And then later, when I need to pull from that, if I can't go to sleep, if I'm, the kids are out of control, whatever, just I'll use that in my breathing and think about it and, how I felt.
And that's a real research-based thing where we can hearken back and we can think about that and bring the same experience into our psyche, where it'll come in. I was at Chicago when I was at that awful security thing. I was standing in my hotel room looking out through a hotel room at nature. And I realized I could feel what you're talking about, where it was, I wasn't out there, I was in this lousy hotel room, but I could feel that coming in and coming on board. Yeah. Anybody ride horses? Right? Like the awesomest thing ever. Everybody should have a horse. Right? Don't tell my daughter I said that, because we ain't getting a horse. But, the nature, the experience. Yeah. You're going to come up and you're going to ride bicycle in Duluth sometime. He's on his phone. See, this is what we do right there. That's a wipeout. Those are all my pictures. That's my youngest, my fishing partner. Yeah, you cannot overstate the power of nature. Anybody have a faith or spiritual community or a community that they draw a bunch from, or an activity in the community you want to share about, sir?
Yeah, I kind of use music too. I'm a tenor. I sing in the choir. We have about 70 members there. I have a small group I'm in. We have 3 services on Sunday that we'll sing in. We sang for National Day of Prayer, our State House.
Good for you.
We also serve the homeless at the shelters. So we'll do that in groups with our small groups. So it kind of puts you back to, what you do and the people I see. I see the same people at my courthouse that I serve.
Yeah.
So, and they recognize me.
Yeah.
So
you get to wear different hats and different roles.
Yeah.
Good for you. How long you been singing?
7 years.
Good for you.
Yeah, so it's fun.
Awesome. I wish I could sing.
I can't sing.
Yeah. Anybody else? Community? Involvement. Yeah. You're good at, thank you. He's really good.
He has my back.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I'm very involved in my local church, and then I pray, and that has been so effective to me, and that has helped me keep my job a lot.
Yeah.
Because I can do that
Pray, then
while
talk.
I'm talking to somebody. I can be having other conversations like, "Please help me right now," or I take a lot of time and just kind of like sometimes step away, from my desk and having that sense of being able to express myself and to just be able to receive something. It helps me to be a better person and to be more empathetic, to what they're going through, because it really
Brings
isn't
you
about
back.
me. It's about, them or who I'm working with. So
Cool. Let me touch on back to mindfulness a little bit. And I just want to share one story. Ellen Langer is a Harvard prof. She defines mindfulness as active noticing. Pretty simple. She does a ton of research. Her career, do some reading about her. Her career has been around the question of what we think about something impact that something. That's poorly said, but let me give you an example. We're in a hotel, so it's perfect. Her thesis is the way we think about something might impact how that goes. The speaker this morning talked about that walk to the tough client and how the meeting went different because of her mind, how she brought the mind to it. Langer did this research over in Britain with chambermaids, hotel housekeeping folk. Her thesis was, if you're doing housekeeping, you're doing a lot of exercise every day. You're scrubbing, you're hauling, and her thesis was you ought to be in pretty good shape. It could help you. And they looked and they brought a bunch of folks in and they tested them on hard science stuff. What's your blood pressure? What's your risk for diabetes? What's your maximum? What's your resting heart rate? Put probes on them. And then they sent them out for the experiment. They had a control group and the treatment group. The control group did exactly what they'd been doing. The treatment group, they said this to. Have you noticed that what you do is a lot like exercise? We'd like you to think about what you do as exercise. Several months later, they brought him back in and hooked up all the probes. What do you think it showed? You think it showed nothing, don't you? You think there's no way that could impact. The people who were in the treatment group who changed their thinking about what they were doing had better numbers. Resting heart rate dropped, all of that. Literally how they thought about something. It's not just being present, it's how we think about something might change how we experience something. These folks, and she's done a ton of this. There was a movie made on some of what she does. It's fascinating to think about how what you think and how you perceive. I've started each morning, I do a gratefulness journal. I write 3 things in my journal that I'm grateful for. There are days where I walk around just silly talking about I'm grateful for the weather, I'm grateful for my bicycle, I'm grateful. It's changing the way I see other things because I have a practice of thinking about what I'm grateful for. Does that make sense? Do some reading about her. She's fascinating. She's just fascinating. I'm running out of time for you. I won't show you this video because it's huge, but there's a guy named David Foster Wallace who does a graduation speech that's fascinating on mindfulness and presence. I want to take a look at Kelly McGonigal. She does a lot of research about how you view stress can impact how stress impacts you. Going through stress makes you better at the future. You can get stronger through stress. post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth. Which takes me to vicarious resilience, which is where I want to end with you. Have you heard this term at all? Okay. You've heard vicarious trauma. You know the idea. I've been talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. As we hear the stories, as we see the trauma, we take it on board. We are impacted by the trauma around us. Vicarious resilience is a concept that started with therapists who were helping folks who had been through torture. Tough work, right? And the idea is you can look at the trauma and you can see the impacts of the trauma. Broken lives, broken history, scars, you name it. You can also, if you choose, Ellen Langer, if you choose, you can look at the resilience. We've got a woman named Bonnie in our court, and she could represent almost all the folks in our court. I mean, she's in her mid to late 50s. She's got a master's in social work. She's been through everything you can imagine. Domestic violence, family violence, abandonment, you name it. You know, you hear her story and you'll weep. And you see that every week. She's going to be in my court forever. She just is, because I'm not sending her to prison, and she's having a hard time quitting marijuana after 4 or 5 years. But she's safe. She's not driving. She doesn't have a car. She's not a danger. We're working on harm reduction. Bonnie volunteers, actually she's employed at and also volunteers at hospice, right? And she comes in on Fridays and I'm like, what you been up to this week? And she'll talk about the hospice work she's been doing that week. She talks about kind of the sacredness. She's Chippewa. She works within their community. She works with the tribal social services. So a lot of her clients are Native American folks, and they bring their ceremonies and connections together. But she talks about the sacredness of what she's doing, helping people move from this world into the next world. So on the one hand, I can see all of the harm she's suffered, and then the harms that flow out of that. But on the other hand, if I have a mind to it, and if I'm present and aware, I can see all the beautiful things she brings out of her suffering. Right? She's able to sit with people and walk them through something that I ain't able to do. And a lot of it comes from who she is and what she's been through. It's not just kind of blank slate. It's all. So that's the idea, is that in doing this work, if we can see both the hardship, the brokenness, the trauma, the history, but also the beauty. I mean, I watch my folks parent and learn to parent and be proud of their parenting. And when the 18-year-old son comes back because mom's finally off the meth and starts to trust her and hang around with her and invite her to stuff. We were at graduation back in May, and one of my clients was there with her 18-year-old son, and we bumped into each other. I photobombed, I snuck into her picture, and, you know, so I can see the resilience that somebody brings to their life. And the research tells us that that's good for us too. I can celebrate with Bonnie, and I can bring that on board for me and help me to continue to do it and to take on the new client and the new client and the new client. Does that make sense? I mean, it's not intuitive, because we get attracted to the story and we get caught in the pain and caught in the brokenness. But if you can step back and see the resilience, you can take that on board and celebrate that. That's also a ritual of positive emotion, but you can bring that on. we call it the witching tree. It's up on the shore of Lake Superior. I love that picture. That tree is growing on solid dang rock. It's 100-some years old. It's growing where ain't nobody got any business growing. But we see that. I've got those in my neighborhood all over, with these trees that are like Bonnie, growing where somebody shouldn't be growing, where you'd think we'd be dead and gone, right? So when I'm down, I'll think of Bonnie, and I'll look at an image like that and think, we can do this. I can get up, right? How are we doing on time, Wendy? 5 minutes. Which is more important, passion or purpose, when you're hiring people, promoting people? Passion. Passion? Everybody at passion? Chip and Dan Heath have done some research. They say that's wrong. Purpose. I think the jury's out. If you get both, good for you. But don't forget about purpose. Flash some Bonnies in front of people. Help them understand. Help them see what we're doing. Most of you are going to hate this app. She thought I was crazy. This is a trigger for me to be present. It's an app called WeCroak. I think it costs $2. It sends you 5 messages a day saying you're going to die. Really, not making it up. It flashes across your screen. In fact, it just did. It says, don't forget you're going to die. Open for a quote. Let's see what the quote is. Whatever kills you, and your death is authentic, no matter how you die. Jerry Garcia. Here's some quotes from it. Some people begin these conversations. This is from hospice. What I love most about you. You simply never know about people, thought Elizabeth. You think because they're timid, they'll always be timid, or because they're mean, they'll always be mean. But they can change awfully quickly if they are treated right. Anne Frank, I don't think of all the misery, but of the beauty that still remains. So, and they're all kind of different quotes. If I don't know, I'm crazy, but I take a few moments and I think, I'm going to live today. I'm going to live today. And it's a trigger for me to stop. Sometimes I get beautiful quotes, sometimes I get stupid quotes. We have 2 minutes. Anybody have a mantra? Something they tell themselves? Yes, Kim?
It's like this now.
It's like this now. Right. This too shall pass. It's like this now. Yes. Happiness is a decision. I love that. That's Ellen Langer. That's 25 years at Harvard Prof. Let it be. Yeah. Yeah. Your work is not in vain. Not my monkeys, not my circus. That's one of Sally's. I have choices. I have choices, right? I can control what I can control. Yeah.
I have a mantra, but I wear a low carb bracelet because it reminds me to keep balance, because it has one from the Dead Sea and one from Mount Everest.
Oh, cool.
Balance of how highs and lows.
Balance.
I have a bad day, I just look at it and say, okay, it's not even
Very cool.
What's your bracelet on?
Oh, it's my DWI cord. It's Fave 5 Fearless. So we give them, at every phase advancement, we give our folks a bracelet. So I always wear, I never wear the sober one. I ain't gonna lie to people. Anybody else have a mantra? I like, yes, please. You guys. Life is in session. You guys are so good at, yeah, thank you. Wendy.
You're only given a little spark of madness.
You're only given a little spark of madness. What's that? You mustn't lose it. Back to purpose. Back to being there. It doesn't work for everybody, but think about it. Maybe there's something you want to scrawl on your mirror, or put on your, I'll often do it on my screensaver. The Cheyenne Dog Soldiers said today is a good day to die. I love that one. I'm kind of weird, I get it. All right. Thank you.